Welcome to Putting It Together, the podcast that goes through the entire body of work of Stephen Sondheim, show by show and song by song. My name is Kyle Marshall, your self-described Sondheim expert. All right, we're into week 2 of talking about Bounce and Roadshow, and so we're at the opening song of Roadshow, a song that has evolved multiple times through the genesis of this show. As you'll hear, there was never really a great grasp of what song to use to actually open up the story of the Meisner brothers. So myself and Mike Meaney are wrestling with the idea of what would have made a better opening song? And do we think any of the opening songs that we get actually, perfected the idea? One thing that I'm just going to throw out, I should just point out, I am traveling here right now. I'm at my parents' place, and so I'm hiding under the covers recording this intro on my phone. So hopefully everything sounds okay. For the people that are supporting over on Patreon, I'm going to be uploading the video versions of these conversations I had with my guests, starting when I get back here later on next week. So there'll be a couple of episodes that I upload at once, just to get caught up. So if you're more interested to see a visual representation of this show, then head on over to Patreon so that you can take a look at those. That is where you can support this show. Of course, if you are facing financial difficulties, I don't expect anyone to fork over any money out of their pockets. But if you're able to do so, it does go a long way to help defray some of the costs of putting this show on. So that's patreon.com/puttingittogetherpodcast. Anyways, let's get into the show here this week. A good discussion with Mike Meaney about opening songs in general and what we think about waste.
Mr. Meisner, there is a gentleman to see you.
Think that he's dead. Has been for years.
God, what a waste.
Genius.
Mike Meaney, thank you so much for coming back to the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me back. I'm happy to be here.
I mean, we need to start right here at the very beginning. I feel like this is going to be a recurring answer that I get from you, but how familiar are you with Bounce/Roadshow?
Not all that familiar. I'm a little bit more versed in Bounce than Roadshow, just because I got that album first, and so was far more pulled into that. And then I actually think when I got Bounce, Roadshow hadn't even opened yet, so I there was still a couple of years before that. But with Roadshow, I've listened to the album a couple of times. I've seen the encores, but I'm still it doesn't stay with me in a way that I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. Where I'll listen to it and go, oh yeah, that's right.
It's one of those shows. There's movies that do this for me too, and this feels so mean to say, but it's truly how I feel about this. I'm kind of forgetting the show while I'm watching it, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just nothing is sticking 100% to me. Even though I will go to bat for a couple of songs in the show that I think are really, really great. But as a whole, as a story even, it's just oh yeah, I'm watching something. I forgot that I'm watching something.
Yeah, and I wonder if it's because it's so episodic that it's easy to go, oh, that's right, this is on this episode of Roadshow, what we're as opposed to having a fully streamlined story where it makes it a little bit harder to keep track of things.
Now this is probably going to get annoying this season, but this is what this show is to a degree. But to Monday morning music director this. Why do you think that is? This is something that Sondheim wanted to do for decades. He finally gets a chance. It takes 14 years to get what he considers his perfect version. And yet my position would be it's really the forgotten Sondheim show in many ways.
For sure.
So what do you think that is? Why isn't it something that more champions haven't found?
I think it's just because it's a flawed piece. It's not to kind of Occam's razor it, but the simplest thing is it's flawed. And it's interesting that he was thinking about this since 1950. It's been this thing that he was constantly wanting to do and kept coming back to. And ultimately, I don't know why it gets forgotten, but it's fine. You know what I mean? And even then,
I get it. Yeah.
As it being even though sometimes fine is a lot better than many people's best. So there was still a lot to like about Roadshow.
In a way, you almost hoped it would terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like such a
Yeah,
catastrophe that's like, well, at least I can't forget this thing. And this one
exactly.
is like yeah, it exists.
And I think that like that is really ultimately what it is, where like if it was truly like a bomb, there would at least be like this factor of like, oh my gosh, this disaster of a Sondheim musical, as opposed to, it's okay. It's got, talent's a good song, you
Right.
use a good song, like where it has I think it's, similar to The Frogs, and which, came out
Mm.
around this same time period where
Yeah, the
it's fine.
revamped version. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine.
And for me it's kind of like one of those, who cares, in terms of like the Meisner brothers in particular.
Mm,
Just
mhm.
they were kind of interesting, but they also kind of sucked too. So it's just
Yeah,
it's hard
yeah.
to be like, well, it's because they love each other. It's like, no, I mean, they do love each other, but it's constantly fraught. They're constantly at each other's throats, and so like their relationship isn't really one to root for, and I
It's all
don't
those things
know,
like on paper, like it's problems that Sondheim was able to solve with his other collaborators. You know what I mean? Like it's like,
Sure.
yeah, they're not really likable characters, but yet the characters in Follies are certainly not like the most lovable people that I'm following. Yet I'm
No.
invested in their storylines and understand that type of thing. Like the episodic nature has happened in some of his other shows. The American history has happened in other shows. So like all this stuff feels like, we could make this work. He considers obviously Roadshow to be the perfected version of everything, but I don't know if any version was ever like, oh, I think you nailed what this is actually about.
Yeah, and I think what you just described, it almost makes Roadshow sound like Sondheim Mad Libs, where you have,
Right.
the episodic nature, unlikable characters, this and that, and it's like, oh, yep, th those are all, they check the boxes in Roadshow. But at least with like the characters in Company or Follies, they have a quality that you can relate to, and
Hmm.
lets you kind of forgive their behavior, because you're like, I also would be interested in finding a partner, or it's just things with
Hmm.
Follies and all of that are the relatable, and even, Franklin Shepherd and Merrily isn't the most likable person,
Yeah, right.
but you can relate to parts of his journey and things like that, where the Meisner brothers, are just takes a lot for you to empathize with them in any sort of way.
Yeah, or really, start to understand who they are. Again, weirdly enough, because they spent so long trying to make this show work. I've been recording all the episodes completely out of order this season, so something that I know is going to come up on future episodes. This is just a for me. I fully think that maybe someone out there could come and maybe find a take on the show that might make it work. Let's just put it that
Yeah.
way. But ultimately, it's kind of hilarious to me that it took so long for them to focus on who I think is the more interesting of the brothers, which is Addison.
For
And
sure.
I think Sondheim and Weidman were both like, but like Wilson had this Hollywood career, and he had like this backing prize fighters, and he was in New York, social elite and stuff like that. But like he was such like a flim flam man and like
Hmm.
liar and like all this other stuff. So again, I kind of understand why they're being seduced to be like, oh, this is the character to follow, but there's no character arc or growth there. Where
Yeah.
Addison, at least you can make something up for him to have that character arc, but it takes until this show for it to finally be like, oh, I guess this is who we're going to basically follow as our main character.
Yeah, and it's funny to me with the two of them, and it's almost like if you combine them into one, you'd be like, oh, that's a
Yeah,
really interesting person. But when they're two separates, it's kind of milquetoast, I guess would be the best
for
way to
sure.
describe it. Addison's like quietly doing his own thing, and it is interesting, but it's not enough to sing.
You mentioned that you were kind of much more into like bounce and like understanding like that gestation.
I must have been in high school when I got it, because
Yeah.
I honestly think like I heard Bounce probably before I heard Passion, or
Oh, interesting.
yeah, and Anyone Can Whistle. Like I got to in the Frogs. I got to it a little bit sooner, because I think it was more contemporary when I was in high school. Like, oh, it's like the new Sondheim is here. And
Right.
but it was still at that point, the Bounce recording probably would have been out for 4 or 5 years. So,
Hmm.
but that was still probably like the newest after the Frogs. And so, and I actually like Bounce. Like, and it's interesting, and I'm sure you're going to be hearing so much about this with this season, of just people having strong feelings towards one version over the other.
Sure.
Bounce, like I like the theme throughout, and I really, I think that one does a much better job of tying the show together by having this theme exist throughout it that we don't really get with Roadshow.
Well, one thing I'm going to plant my flag in here right now I think that Bounce is also a flawed show for many different reasons that I've probably gone into already. But the one thing I will say, I do like the opening song of Bounce better than this opening song of Roadshow. They essentially are kind of doing the same thing, but I just like the interplay and the comedy of the Bounce opening better.
And it seems to be this theme from, back when it was Wise Guys all the way through, that it's done as of looking back on their life after they've died. Like that always seems to be the conceit of the show. And so having it suddenly be the ensemble doing it as opposed to the brothers doing it,
Yeah.
I kind of would like it better if that's how we're introduced. And I don't know if you've ever heard any of the music from Wise Guys.
I did. I actually was able to track down, I'll just say it, an unauthorized bootleg audio recording of, I think it was the workshop version of Wise Guys I listened to.
Sure. And I think that might be the one that one floats around and falls off the back of a truck every once in a while. But
just walk outside like, oh, it's Wise Guys.
yeah.
Look at that.
Tying the mafia there with the Wise Guys
Yeah.
title too. But that opening number, the On My Left, or He's a Prince, I can't remember exactly what it's called. But I think
Yeah.
that did the best job out of all of them, with Bounce kind of as a close second, where it establishes who the brothers are, and like the relationship between the two of them is very clear right from the get, where you don't really get that with Waste. And I guess Bounce, the opening number, was written, and then they went, well, I think that should be the name of the show now, and like that was one of the things. And it's also kind of speaks to the problem of just having four different titles and thinking like, oh well, if we change the title it'll fix the show mentality, which it's rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic.
Well, I want to go through a little bit of the production history here. This is another recurring theme that I'm going to be bringing up multiple times here through this season. Ultimately, I think my position, or at least my theory, my working theory, is that Sondheim, Weidman, and then the string of directors that come and have their imprint on this material, I don't think any of those three people ever agreed with what the show was. I think that truly
100%.
is. I think that truly is what the issue is. Is like Weidman has a very specific interest in what he's doing. Sondheim has his own specific interest, and then each director comes in like, I think we should add this or take this out or rearrange this stuff. And so when I don't think anyone is really on the same page, and it has this weird, I don't know,
It's
stew that's been
disjointed.
made that this doesn't go together, right?
No, I agree entirely, because it never seems like it knows what it is. And even in this final form that Sondheim considered definitive, I still don't think they know what it is, because
Yeah.
calling it roadshow and trying to treat it like a roadshow, it still doesn't give that like zany vibe. Like if that's the case and they wanted it to be a satire, like I think they could have leaned into it a little bit more than they did.
Yeah. I mean, that's a weird part too, is like it goes back and harkens back to Sondheim's initial idea of it being like a road movie. The Bob Hope and
Bing Crosby.
Yeah, but Bob Hope and Bing Crosby road pictures. But I would say Roadshow is like the least funny out of all the versions. It's like the
Yeah.
much more serious version of the
I
show.
agree entirely. And it's interesting to hear like the things that Prince was doing in Bounce that really like upped the satire aspect of it. Like, like having the housing market collapse by having it be a bubble popping, or the
Right.
balloon pop. So to like, and then little things like that to kind of do it with a nudge and a wink, where this like looking at pictures of the original version and it's just like it has a very dour look to it that kind of goes against what I think Sondheim wanted the show to be, which is like, an adventure story with a little bit of zaniness and zip to it. And again, I don't know, like I get finishing Passion and going, I want to do something with a little bit more
little
jazzier, I
more
think is-
fun.
yeah, exactly. But it seems like at this point he still wants to like write the heavy introspective stuff, which is fine, but it's just, I guess Merrily would have been the last time there was something with a little bit more old school zip to it, like old musical theater kind of style.
I think it's one of those things. I mean, I just thought of this comparison now, so I know I have not said this in in later episodes. The good comparison, I think, honestly, is if anyone went and saw Megalopolis, the movie by Francis Ford Coppola, which was a similar thing that took like 50 years of his imagination, and finally he gets the financing to make. He sells half of his winery to like finance this thing. The nicest thing I can say is that was a complete train wreck
Yeah.
of a film for multiple different reasons, where it's like yeah, if you made this back in the 70s, I could kind of see like the satirical point you're trying to make and blah, blah, blah. Similar to this show, it's like, yeah, if you had made this in the late 50s, that makes a lot of sense. And you probably would
Yeah.
have had like this youthful energy. But now as gosh, what would he have been? Like 70 plus year old man
Yeah.
making this. It's just like, I don't know if this, I think you've kind of lost what would have made it interesting in the first place.
Yeah, I think there's something that like would have required youthful ignorance to make this work, which is also interesting that in the 50s he lost the rights to this by Irving Berlin,
Irving
who is
Berlin,
also
yeah.
not, at that point was probably 150. So,
Yes.
like,
Conservatively, yeah.
yeah, because he still lived for another 40 years after that. But also somebody who I would have been curious to see what the Irving Berlin version of the Meisner's brother story is,
Yeah, what would
because
that be?
I also don't see that either.
Yeah, yeah. But maybe you can fill in just a little bit more of the production history then. So we get up to post Passion. Weidman and Sondheim decide, yeah, let's collaborate again.
Yes,
They didn't
and
do Passion, but, but they
no,
want to
but
collaborate again.
what was interesting in reading about this is Weidman approached Sondheim with an idea of, I think it was a musical about the creation of the United Nations.
Something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Which just is, I'm like, that sounds like a horrible idea for a musical, which makes me think it would be brilliant. And for whatever reason,
Actually, there was a Woodrow Wilson rap in the middle of it that was going to be
yeah,
amazing.
years and years ahead of its time. Sondheim brought up this idea that he's had kicking around for, at this point, it's been 40 years. And the Kennedy Center was having an anniversary, I think in 96, and it was supposed to kick off this anniversary there and then come to Broadway. The show took much longer to write than they thought, and this is back,
Shocker.
yeah. And little did they know that it was going to be like 14 years before it finally hit its final stage there.
I just like the recurring thing of doing this show for so long is it's always like, Steve, we have this deadline. And he's like, nah,
No.
I'll get to it when I get to it.
I mean, that seems to be, there's so many different shows where they're just like, yeah, he never got around to it."
Yeah. And so, yeah, we get Nathan Lane and Victor Garber to be
Yes.
the Meisners in this like long gestating piece for the, again, like you said, it goes multiple years longer than what they think it's going to be.
And even then, like, and then they lost their first director, and then Sam Mendes, who this is right when he's about to, shoot all the way up with, the cabaret revival in American Beauty and all of that. And so he lost interest. And that one, I think it had a 3-week workshop, and it was, people seemed enthusiastic from like what I can read about this. They're like, it has potential. It needs, and that always seems to be the thing where somebody's like, it needs blank, and nobody can seem to be in agreement on what the one thing it needs. Like, it's like all of the pieces are there, but you can't make the puzzle. It kind of feels like I do think when Roadshow or when Bounce like works, it really is a like great show, but those moments are fleeting.
Yeah, even in Roadshow here, I think that there is like this middle portion that I'm kind of along for the ride, and then it kind of like fizzles out a little bit by the end.
And then so they get to Hal Prince, who Sondheim and him haven't worked together since Merrily blew up.
Well, yeah, I think the cool bit of history here is like, yeah, I don't know if they were ever like truly mad or like angry with each other. I think that might have been built up a little bit in the press and
Sure.
and the mythologizers and stuff out there. But certainly the Merrily concert that they do, where people are so enthusiastic and people are so excited for that, with the original cast coming back and reprising it for that one night, they take that and be like, let's collaborate again. And this is kind of the project that they
Yeah.
collaborate on.
And that's leads us to Bounce in Chicago at the Goodman. And then I can't remember. I think it got like okay reviews. Like people weren't, screaming for it, but they didn't hate it either. And then they were gonna make changes once it finally made it to the Kennedy Center. And at that point, I think from all accounts, Prince had kind of stepped away from it and was fine to just kind of like let it be. And then it died. It's, third death at this point.
Yeah, like the way that Sondheim writes about it, again, who knows, like, what's true, what's not,
Yeah.
sort of thing. But yeah, they do the Chicago performances. They have a bunch of notes. They want to implement them. They want to kind of perfect this show. And what kind of kills the momentum is, I do kind of think Hal Prince probably was just not interested necessarily. But he goes on vacation for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
and
they
it kind of just
couldn't
like,
get a hold of him.
They couldn't like implement any of these changes, and so it kind of just withers, and then no one kind of comes and tries to revamp it and push it to a more fuller run in New York.
And another problem they ran into, and this is even before Bounce made it to Chicago,
Mm-hmm.
was one of the original producers attached to it was Scott Rudin. They were moving
Totally
on.
normal guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was one of the lead producers, and then they were moving on with a production without him, and I don't think anybody told him. And so he's like, no, 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 I have been putting money into this, so I get first dibs and I get to say what happens to it, or at least have some sort of say. And then that ended up in court, and I believe everyone sided with Sondheim in that. And then we get Bounce, and then Bounce goes away, and then finally we get John Doyle coming in, turning it into a one act like he is wont to do, and we get Roadshow at the Public in
That's right.
2008.
The only other person I like to call out here is Oscar Eustace, who
Oh,
is the
yes.
CEO, who is the CEO of the Public, who does some dramaturgy, is what Sondheim says, to like fix up some of the script. Yeah, and then John Doyle, like you said, makes this become a one act, which I actually do think was a good idea. This show does not need to be a two act.
Yeah, especially in this episodic form of a road show where I think if it just goes. And then when Encores did it in, I want to say 2019. Yes, 2019. They did it as like a radio play, which I thought worked pretty well because it kind of got rid of any sort of by making a whole new framing device. It got rid of all the other framing devices. So
Yeah, right. So we come to this opening number. This is like the fourth different opening number that they've tried now with this show. It is essentially the same melody as Bounce.
yes.
With some differences here and there, but it's essentially the same melody that we're reusing from the opening of Bounce.
And and it's called Waste. And there's something to me about this is the fourth swing at this show, and starting it off by calling it Waste and having it be completely rewritten from the
Yeah,
original
yeah.
opening. I'm just like, it's just a little too like the signs are there, you know what I mean?
And again, not to relitigate this like numerous times here, just musically, Bounce does like it's almost like an onomatopoeia. Like you do kind of like bounce
Yeah.
when you say that word. And waste is such like I don't know. It's not as a musically nice word to listen to.
No, and it gets it started, I think, on such a wrong note. Just because it's such a negative word, you know what I mean? And even though they're like talking about like him dying is like what a waste. And but at the same time it's just having it be that one word waste. It's just it does not produce a positive thing. I mean, even though they're not, it's not really a positive story, but it's just kind of immediately I think gets it on the wrong foot. Where
Right.
like you said, like Bounce has that energy behind it where this sucks all the energy out of a room, I feel like.
Well, let me set the stage here for you because as the curtain comes up on Roadshow, the year is 1933, and Addison is there in bed, surrounded by what is called a pyramid of trunks, packing crates, old furniture, and people. And a woman comes out to him and says, "Mr. Meisner, there's a gentleman to see you." Addison sits up, and it's supposed to be obvious that he is dead. But he sits up, and then out of one of the packing crates comes Wilson. Everyone of the company comes out, and we're looking at Addison in bed. And so all of this is just random men and women who are singing this opening. So it goes through, think that he's dead, has been for years, God, what a waste. Genius, they said, open frontiers, really such a waste. All of that style, all that flair, all that guile, now let's be fair, he had a real spark, made a mark, instantly erased.
Think that he's dead.
Has been for years.
God, what a waste.
Genius, they said.
Open frontiers.
Really such a waste.
All of that style. All that flair.
All that guile.
Now let's be fair. He had a real spark.
Made a mark.
Instantly erased.
The thing is, having the ensemble come in and talk about this person and not knowing who these people are, or like
Right.
I don't think it does a good job of introducing this person and again, always starting with their death, I think is an interesting idea, but having them in limbo is a far more interesting way of getting things started. But just kind of having these people say kind of generic things about Addison, it just doesn't do a lot for me. And I know it's I feel bad because it's going to sound like I'm ragging on this song for the entire
Sure.
time. But I like it's hard, especially when it is a copy and paste musically from another song that did
True.
the exact same thing but did it better.
Sometimes also just like this thought literally just popped into my head. At risk of having my Sondheim fan club card revoked, there is a show that I can think of that at least does an idea of this better, which is Evita. I was going to bring this up. So it's her death. It's like a funeral. There's people, and then a guy comes out, Che Guevara comes out and says like, these people are idiots. This person was awful. Let me tell you her story. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, at least like, okay, at least I'm being brought into this story if I have no idea who Ava Perón was. At least I'm being brought into that story in an interesting way.
And it puts a very, very strong idea on who this person was in Evita, where this one, he had potential. He didn't he kind of do something fancy? Oh, isn't that a waste? Isn't that like, it's like it might as well be like waste could be shame, could be,
Right? We don't even know their names yet, right?
Exactly. Like, and again, in the script, it's just a man, another woman, and it's just generic people saying generic words about somebody who we have no idea who they are yet. And it's not like as the song progresses, it gets more specific. It's just kind of he's dead, and isn't that a bummer? There's potential.
Now, as a bit of a positive here, I mean, this is Sondheim after all, so there is some really lovely rhymes that he throws out here, which, dead rhymes with said, for years rhymes with frontiers. What's the other one? Style rhymes with guile. But I really like the fact that it's, he's rhyming waste with erased, which I thought that's a really fun rhyme there too.
Yeah, and you say what you want about Roadshow, and believe me, we are like the lyrics all rhyme. They are still a lot better than a lot of the stuff we are subject to these days.
Yeah,
And,
right.
and again, like Sondheim at less than his best is still better than a lot of people's best. So for that, we can at least be grateful.
I feel like such an old man yelling at clouds nowadays because, I mean, there's still great stuff being produced, but so many times I hear it's like, well, that's not a perfect rhyme. I know some people don't care about that, but for me, it's like,
No,
it still does bug me a bit.
it's this thing where I'm like, it's craft. It's about the craft. And you don't think Sondheim wanted to use a false rhyme because it would have made his life a little bit easier? I guarantee you it happened all the time, but he figured it out instead of just giving up and doing something lazy, which is
Right.
what I don't like about false rhymes. Is I'm just like, you could have found
You could have
something
figured
eventually.
something. Yeah.
If you tried, like you are clever enough to be a lyricist. I think you are clever enough to find another path to get to where you need to go.
So these people continue singing about this man in the bed and say, could have been rich, could have lost weight. God, what a waste. Excuse me. That's Addison. Son of a bitch, could have been great. Now he's just disgraced. Excuse me. Such an ascent, such a fall, such a nice gent. He had it all. How could he miss? Finish like this? Waste.
Could have been rich.
Kinda lost weight.
God, what a waste. Excuse me?
Son of a bitch.
Could have been great.
Now he's just disgraced. Excuse me.
Such an ascent.
Such a fall. Such a nice gent.
He had it all.
How could he miss?
Finish like this. Waste.
The first thing I want to bring up here is I have now listened to this album multiple times. I watched that Encore's production. This is the first time reading the lyrics that I realized that it's a pun that they're making here about his weight, right?
Yes.
God, what a waste. The first time they say that, and he says, excuse me, they're talking about his waistline.
Yeah. He's always been played by somebody who's a little bit more
Hefty.
corpulent. Yes.
Yeah.
And except for in the encores, it was Brandon Uranowitz, who's
Oh, that's right. So it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, little itty bitty guy. But yeah, and it's interesting now that, he's dead and we get Addison, speaking to these people who are, we're getting that he's going to be a ghost here in a second.
So what rhymes do we have here? I do like waste and disgraced. Such an ascent is such a nice gent. But I think just like to underscore this, again, we're going to sound like kind of like broken records here. I still don't know anything about this person that they're singing about. You know, really, it's like he could have done all this stuff, but they're not telling me about anything he actually has done.
And I get like we're about to move into like the Remember Me section, but again,
Yeah.
it's still I don't think it's doing a good enough job because it's like, are we going to see these things that that these people are bringing up? What's the point of bringing up these things in the next section here? I am getting a little bit ahead here of the Remember Me section, but it's like it just still doesn't feel specific enough for an opening number.
Well, talking about that remember section, so this is a bit of a doozy because it's all overlapping with people. But so here are well, let's just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 people. So here's the 8 people and what they're saying. So there's a man who says, "Remember me, I'm the one you bought the plantation from. Boy, what a waste. That was a waste." A woman going, "Remember me, I'm the one with the house you designed. What a waste, what a terrible waste, what a waste." A man says, "Remember me, I'm the one that you baited the suckers with. Waste, waste of your money and waste of my time. Remember that? Remember that? What a waste, what an asinine waste." 2 women together are singing, "Remember me, I'm the one that you used in the ads. Honey, that was a waste. That was a waste and a half. Remember that? Remember that? What a waste. What a silly old waste." A man is singing, "Remember me, I'm the one with the fireworks business. A waste if I ever saw waste. And believe me, I recognize waste when I come across waste." And another man is saying, "You come into my office and buy all those pineapples. Going to waste. I mean, talk about waste. That was a waste. No, a waste and a half." A woman is singing, "Not to mention the door you forgot to include and the stairs that went nowhere. There was a waste. There was a terrible waste." And a man says, "Remember me, I'm the one with the Klondike Saloon. What a waste. What a god-awful waste. I mean, that was a waste." And a woman who sings, "Remember me, I'm the one that you promised a mansion to."
Remember me, I'm the one that you bought the plantation
Remember
from.
me,
Boy, what
the
a
one
waste.
with the house
That
you
was a waste.
designed. What a
Remember
waste.
me,
What
I'm
a
the
waste.
one that you
Remember
made
me,
of
what
the
a
sun.
waste. That you
Remember me,
made
I'm
in
the
the
one
yard.
with the
Honey,
fire
what a
which
waste.
beats
And the
a
stairs
waste
and
of
the
my
walls.
life.
What
It's
a
a
waste.
waste
That
that
you
you made. What a
Remember
waste.
me,
What a waste. What a waste.
So there's all these people saying, "Hey, remember all this stuff? Remember George." That's what they should have said.
Except it's all negative. You know,
Yeah.
everyone's just completely ragging on the guy, and
Mm-hmm.
and again, it's just as a way to start off the show to just kind of be so negative as a way to kick things off with like the
Mm-hmm.
death of this person too. It's an interesting approach that I think sets it up for problems down the line.
Again, not to try and kick off like another 14 years of rewriting and stuff like this, but then like another Sondheim show, which is basically describing a person that you're about to witness, is Sweeney Todd, right? You know, attend the tale of Sweeney Todd. We're going to tell you about all these fantastical descriptions of this like evil person and, you know, killing people and stuff. But we get like a really good sense of like, oh, okay, so this is the person and this is the show that we are about to sit through and see.
And there's a drive underneath it that it's like it's about
Yeah.
building the momentum of the story, where this doesn't really feel like doing it. It's kind of lackadaisical, just like, yep, it was a waste, you know.
Yeah.
What a bummer. He kind of sucked at what he did. What a bummer.
It's funny that, yeah, they're, again, it feels like it's so close to getting there and it just never quite coalesces with that idea. Because I could foresee this, like, you know, let's say, yeah, we're going to start with something similar to this. You know, people that he screwed over through his life are going to come on stage and basically give you the overview of what you're about to see. I would argue that it is actually done better later on in the Boca Raton sequence when it
Yes.
goes through. It's like that kind of should be not the Boca Raton sequence specifically, but that idea should be here where it's like a bunch of ad people coming out like, "I have a pitch for you, Addison Meisner. Like, wait, he was a son of a bitch, and this is why."
Yeah.
So like you're still doing the same thing basically, except like, and also telling you what this show is about to be. Because I'll zoom ahead to to where we normally wrap up, but like I still don't think this song really tells you what the show is going to be.
No, and that's the thing is like, and especially there's definitely a way to, especially you're calling it roadshow. Those songs that were in the roadshow movies had a specific feel and drive to them that Sondheim could have emulated very well as a way to kick things off, to just have them be, we're off on the road of the Meisners and just kind of
Right.
have it be one of those types of like, it needed zazz, like it needed that like razzmatazz kind of energy But again, like for calling it Roadshow as the fourth one.
That's another idea. I mean, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but I mean, at least it's an idea of it like totally just breaking the fourth wall and this starting with like two actors being like, we're about to make a play or a musical about the Meisner brothers, and how do we even do this? And like we're on the road to figure out who the Meisner brothers are.
Yeah,
Right? So you're just taking that through.
and I think it's out of all of the shows in the Sondheim canon, I think this is the easiest one to kind of, Monday morning quarterback and go, because they sure tried for years and years to
So
go,
many
hey,
ways, yeah.
what if we tried this? That it kind of makes me feel like, well, what if they tried this instead? Because, it seemed like they were swinging and missing, so I might as well try my hand at it too. But
Well, I think because of that long gestation period, something that you really can't say about any other Sondheim show. You listen to A Little Night Music or Sweeney Todd or even Pacific Overtures or Assassins, and it's like, even if you have criticisms of those shows, it's like, well, all this sounds like it's in this show and it belongs in this show. And then as we go through Roadshow, it's like, oh, that kind of sounds like an Assassin's piece, and this kind of feels like a passion song, and like none of these really fit together like truly 100%. So it's like this Frankenstein show that kind of gets
and it's
assembled.
you just made me think of this where it's plastered all over his books that, content dictates form.
Right.
And it seems like this is not one that follows that rule that he has set for himself.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Okay, well, here's how this song ends here. So we have a handsome young man who comes out, and plug your children's ears if they're in the room. But he says, "Remember me? I'm the one that you fucked." And then they all come back together. Such a good start, such a bad end. Still he had taste. And handsome young man says, "I'm the one that you fucked. Squandered his art, cheated his friend, all of it a waste." And Addison says, "You're the one that I loved. Destined to fail, poor old guy, losing the trail, and you know why. Everybody shoo." I said shoo, I mean you. Shoo. This is Wilson who's come out here now. "A hug for your old brother? Wasting your time, listening to them, that was a waste. What was your crime? You were a gem, they were strictly paste. Willie, listen to me. So it got rough? Why the guilt? Look at the stuff that you built. So you got burned? Look what you've learned." And Addison goes, "You know what I learned, Willie? I learned that the only thing wrong with my life was you conniving son of a bitch." And then they kind of wrestle and they go, "Mama," and then transitions into the next scene.
Which
that's
I
such a
actually
weird
liked.
ending to the. I know, but it's such a weird ending to this song.
Remember me, I'm the one that you fucked.
Such a good start, such a bad end.
Still he had taste.
I'm the one that you fucked.
Squandered his art, cheated his friend, all of it a waste.
You're the one that I loved.
Destined to fail, poor old guy, losing the trail, and you know why.
Everybody shoo! I said shoo, I mean you. Shoo. Hug for your old brother. Wasting your time listening to them, that was the waste. Hello, Willie.
What was your crime? You were a gem, they were strictly paste.
Willie, listen to me.
So it got rough, why the guilt? Look at the stuff that you built, so you got burned. Look what you've learned.
You know what I learned, Willie? I learned that the only thing wrong with my life was you. You conniving son of a bitch.
Hey, cut it out.
You ruined me.
You ruined yourself.
Say it. You ruined me.
Did not.
Did so.
Did not.
Did so.
Did not.
Did so.
Did not.
Did so. Mama. Mama. Mama!
Addison, Wilson, this is no time for squabbling.
And again, like it doesn't do much to show that, who's this person who is walking in. And of course, yes, he introduces himself. You got a hug for your brother, but it's just, I don't know. There's something about it's giving the ghost of Christmas is yet to come in a Christmas where they're
Right.
going around and talking about Scrooge, but instead of Scrooge, we've got Addison here. But at that point, it's, we're 75% way through A Christmas Carol. So we know who this person is and why they would be speaking in such a way about Scrooge. Where here, this is the first thing we get about this person. We're like, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about this guy. And again, we're right back into this purgatory bit here that I think is a lot stronger in bounce. And I
Hmm.
think the Wise Guys opening number, that to me felt more like a roadshow song than Waste.
Than what Waste does, yeah, for sure. I mean, what it does do as an audience is like, okay, I guess we're gonna see all of this stuff that they're mentioning, which we kind of do. I would say a good 70% of that stuff we
Yeah,
kind of see or at least mentioned type of thing in the show. But it's also like weirdly enough, it's like I don't know if any of this like really excites me to go and see. You know what I
exactly.
mean?
And they listed all of these things. And so when you do see them, you're like, well, it's going to blow up in his face. We just know it's going to. So, like, makes it, again, it's hard to root for him. But then we do get something interesting where this guy comes out and says, remember me, I'm the one that you fucked, which
Hmm.
is, it hits the ear in such a way because, like, I don't associate Sondheim with four-letter words. You know what
Yeah,
I
no,
mean?
it's true.
Like,
Yeah, it
and,
is.
and so like and it's interesting that like you get it in Assassins and then here we
Hmm.
are, but other than that they really don't swear in Sondheim shows, and so
No, even though he wanted to in West Side Story, but like,
and the things I'd give if that's really how Officer Krupke ended, but
mhm.
it's so smart that that's how, and it also is the most interesting thing that happens is like, wait, when he said fuck, does he mean like fucked over or like
Or
the
actually, yeah.
and then like when it switches and he clarifies, it's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, what's going to be going on there? Like,
Yeah,
where that's
I
the
mean, I think that's honestly the only interesting part
yeah,
about this opening song. It's like, oh, who is this person? Now, I will say because I watched the Encores version too, Hollis is played by Jin Ha, who I mean, this is now telling on myself. I just think is like one of the most attractive men I've ever seen in my entire life. So I'm like, I want more of this person.
yeah.
Who's this person?
I don't know. Like, and I feel bad that I've
Hmm.
pretty much spent my whole time talking about the song, kind of ragging on it because Sondheim knows how to start a show, and this is not how you start a show.
I think that is kind of like truly what is the most disappointing part about this. It's one of those truisms, right? Of like, depending on your relationship with an artist, you can kind of forgive things or maybe be extra critical of them. But like everybody involved in this show, it's like you had to have known better than
Yeah.
this, right? Like if this was like someone's very first Broadway show, it still probably wouldn't like work 100%, but like, well, I get it. It's like your first thing, you're trying something out and maybe it doesn't all work, but it's an interesting like thing that doesn't fully come together. But when it's like people with like this pedigree, it's like, oh, you're like just doing things that amateurs kind of fall into. And I know you're not amateur. So like what happened here?
And what's interesting is if somebody else wrote this exact same show and Sondheim had no idea
Hmm.
that he ever had a thought of this and sat down and watched it, I bet he'd have some very interesting and
No,
critical things
notes.
to say about the
Yeah, yeah.
opening number.
Yeah, yeah. Because again, yeah, like you, even if we just stick with like the most recent to this show coming out, right? So right before this is Passion, and right before that is Assassins, and both of them like within 2 minutes, like oh, we know what this show is. Like you start with something very provocative, two people naked in bed. It's like oh. Okay, and then before there's like we have the Barker coming. I was like, I'm showing you all the Assassins of America. I'm like, oh, this is provocative. Like, but okay, we get it. We understand what this show is.
And
And
if you
this is like it's like 5-6 minutes into the show. I'm like, so wait, what is happening? Like, who are these people?
exactly, and then even one before, Into the Woods, it's a 12-minute and
Oh yeah, that's right.
giant thing, but you know exactly what's going on. You know the
Hmm.
rules of the game. Where this one, as an opening number, I don't think anybody knows the rules with the two of them suddenly. I do like the transition into the flashback, but
Yeah.
it happens so quick that like you're like, oh, I guess they're going back to their youth. Like
Hmm.
there's nothing there to kind of help facilitate the transition.
I guess what we're saying is that it's a waste of an opening song.
Yeah.
I guess is really what we're coming down here with.
And the thing is, too, at this point, if people were coming to see Roadshow, they definitely knew Bounce at this point. And if you
Hmm.
sit down going, I'm gonna finally hear what they did, they said they fixed it, and you suddenly hear the melody to Bounce with
Sure.
lyrics that are not as good as the lyrics to Bounce, it's just setting it up to be a disappointment, I feel like. And I think Sondheim would have benefited so much more by writing an entirely different song from like top to bottom. So there
Yeah,
was no
I
way
do
for
agree with that. I think this should not have reused the same melody. I think it should have been a complete rewrite from square one. The thing that Sondheim writes about too, he does this for Bounce. He writes this about Bounce, and I actually agree with him about the fact that for most audiences, it took a good 40 minutes for them to kind of slowly sort of come on board with that show.
sure.
Because they sort of started to figure out like who they liked. And after Addison's trip, it's like, okay, we're latching onto this storyline. I actually don't think they fixed that in Roadshow. Again, he thinks they did. I don't think they did. I think it's the same thing. It's like, until you get to that portion, it's like, okay, I think I'm kind of in what this show is doing. At least like it's coalesced, but like that's a long time to ask an audience to sit back and be like, we're just gonna have stuff happen before we get into this stuff.
And who knows? Because like one of my favorite songs is, a bonus track on Bounce. The A House for Mama is such
Oh
a
right.
beautiful song. And maybe you stick it in at the very beginning of the show, right before they're about to go west, and it's him going, "Fine, I'll go strike gold with my brother, but I'm gonna do it so I can finally get that house for Mama," and let that become a theme throughout the show. Like I don't know,
I know that's the thing.
it's
It's
kind of
like,
like no bad ideas in a brainstorm kind of
I
thing.
mean, that's the thing. It's like any idea I can throw out is like, I don't know, maybe that would work. Like, I'm not confident that it would work either. Maybe I've just drunk too much of the Kool-Aid. I actually do think that there is a good idea here. I just don't know how to express it either. Like, I'm not here to say like this is obviously how you fix quote unquote this show, because I do think that there's something here. It's just like I don't know if they ever really fully figured it out.
And who's to say like that there is a way to figure it out? It's, just because it's a good idea, maybe it doesn't need to be a musical, even if it is something
Right.
that's interesting. Like I bet it would probably work well as like a gritty mini series on FX, or something like that, where, there's no music and where it's just you get to hear about these brothers who one was a bit of a con man and one was the creator of Boca Raton, so
Yeah, I mean, I think you did hit on something. I mean, this is your 6 episode Apple TV Plus miniseries where you can
yeah.
go after like two big heavy hitter actors, and it's like we're gonna spend 6-7 hours telling this story again, where there's interesting stuff going on.
And I guess that's part of the problem. It's like, yes, they did interesting things, but it's very chunky and, episodic.
Mhm.
So it would make it a more ideal, where in a musical, it's like there's no arc to follow through the show that makes it, you know, tie
Mhm.
together in a way that feels cohesive.
Which is interesting again because I think that Weidman did solve that problem with Assassins, which is also very episodic.
Mhm.
There's the theme of the presidential assassins all tying it together, but it's not like it's like one storyline happening through that show either.
And I
And
guess
here's like it's the two same characters, but they can't really get this quality arc that's going through.
I just realized right now that Bounce and Assassins have the same thing where there's chunks of the show that take place in limbo.
That's right.
And that works for Assassins of going in and out, but I guess I just realized though that it's pretty much the same thing for the two shows.
That's why I keep calling it like the Frankenstein Sondheim show, because I see so many like themes and musical ideas and themes and stuff that are going through. They're like, oh, it's like this show. Oh, it's like this show. Oh, it's like this show. But all try to be in this show, and it just kind of doesn't fully come together.
And I doubt he knew he was doing that. And at this point,
Mhm.
when you've written so many shows and people have such strong feelings about the musicals that Sondheim writes, that when he decides to write something new, it's very easy for our brains to go, "Oh, that sounds like Follies.
Yeah.
Oh, I see he's doing a company thing here." And I'm sure he's like, "No, I'm not doing that. It's just how I write my music."
Yeah.
But
I think the one positive thing here in present day, now that Here We Are has been released, I do think that takes some of the pressure off of Roadshow now, because it's no longer the last Sondheim show that ever came out sort of thing.
yeah.
I think that has shackled it for many years, whereas like this is the last thing that
Yeah.
Sondheim produced, and it's like it's kind of this nothing kind of show. At the very least, people can maybe come to it afresh and be like, well, maybe there is some interesting stuff here. They don't have to like think of it as like the last Sondheim show.
Well, what's funny for me is my brain, for whatever reason, thinks of Passion as the last song.
Oh yeah,
show.
well, you're not alone. A lot of people, it's like, yeah, that's it. We don't have to keep going after this.
And again, there are things to like in Roadshow and in Bounce, and there are newer songs in the Frogs that I like quite a bit. And here we are, had some of its moments there. I still think I'm like Passion and done.
Yeah, right.
Who's to say?
Well, with that, if you were to take a look at this entire score of Roadshow specifically, this opening song, do we feel like this is top, middle, bottom? Where would this kind of like fall into like what your order of best songs are?
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's bottom for me.
Yeah. Hey, I'm right there with you. I don't have a counter opinion. Like I said, coming up, I want to just reiterate this because there's like 21 episodes we're going to be going through bouncing.
Something huge with this by going with both of them back to back like this. So.
I know. It's just a beast. It's the only way I could think of doing it that wouldn't make me go insane. But like, there is going to be songs I go to bat for in these shows. I'm just letting the audience know that right now. But Waste is not one of them. It's just not going to be one of them.
And the thing, and especially like when talking about Roadshow, and it'll be interesting, I guess, when you get to the songs that are in both shows that you'll have you'll kind of spend half and half of your. But like the changes that Sondheim decided to do for like the best thing that has ever happened, I think
very interesting.
Roadshow like pop in such a great way. And if that was the song we were talking about, again, like you were saying, you'd be hearing me singing its praises from beginning to end. But it's just knowing that Bounce exists as the title song, and then getting Waste, it makes it really hard for me to be favorable towards this as an opening number.
Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come and talk about this. If people wanted to keep up to date with what you're doing, how can they do that?
Instagram is pretty much the only social media I use these days, and it's at Real Mike Meaney. And that's really it. Every once in a while, I'll put something up on my story, but that's about it.
Yeah. Is there anything that you can announce that's coming up for you, or not really?
Nothing yet. There's a couple of things that I'm waiting to hear back on, so I don't want to talk. But because odds are high, I'd be like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, and then as soon as I log off, I'll be getting an email going, oh, we've decided we're not doing this anymore. But
nuts. Yeah.
But I just wrapped up my season at J2 Spotlight, where I'm the associate artistic director. So that just ended, and so we're already gearing up for 2027, so there'll be announcements for that in a few months, I think. So that'll be
lovely.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Well, thank you once again.
Thank you for having me. This is so much fun.
Willie, what was your crime? You were a gem. They were strictly paste.
Willie, listen to me.
So it got rough. Why the guilt? Look at the stuff that you built. So you got burned. Look what you've learned.
You know what I learned, Willie? I learned that the only thing wrong with my life was you. You conniving son of a bitch!